welcome to Big Beard and Friends, episode 298. All right, guys, as I always say, first and foremost, let me start this off by saying whatever it is that you do not talk about, I hope that you heal from. I hope that whatever it is that have you down, I hope you can find a way to get up. If it's people, if it's places, if it's things, whatever it may be in situation, I hope that you get out of it, and I hope that you truly, truly, truly understand that you are somebody and you are strong and you will overcome. And that's serious. That's real talk. They say that. That's what we do. All right, I want to get into this tonight. I think tonight is an interesting episode. I haven't really gave it much thought. I haven't. That's just not what I do. But I will tell you this. Tonight's episode is simply going to be about daydreaming. Yeah, daydreaming. Now, to you and me, we can say daydreaming, and we know that you're probably staring off into space, as they may say it, or wandering around in your brain, whatever you want to call it. It's to indulge in daydreaming. It's present participle. It's daydreaming. It's now. It's what you think of. Now, what causes daydreaming? Or what we could say that what does it mean? How about that? We know what causes it: the love, the passion. But what does it mean to daydream? Daydreams, daytime dreams, whatever you want to call it, they can be interpreted in several ways, you dig? For instance, it's a sign of the mind wandering and needing a much-needed break. And I know we all of us probably have a much-needed break. But you can have a reflection of your life, your current life, your efforts, your goals. It's symbolic. It can be a warning or a message. Hell, it can be a manifestation for your subconscious thoughts and your memories, as I'm reading. However, when I daydream, I like to go places. Does that make sense? I daydream, and I often get lost in thought, and it'll take a search party to come get me out. Does that make sense too? Let me say it like this. I get so into drifting off in the daydreaming world that I myself, sometimes, depending on what I'm thinking about, I hate being back in reality. You know what I'm saying? I get so deep into it that I think about goals. I said earlier, I think about relationships. I think about stuff in my future, long-term goals instead of the short-term goals. I want my goals met. I want finances met. I want things that make me happy. Prospectively, I start thinking of stuff, you know? I get a mental break. I can have a creating process, get very creative. But all this can also be a sign of fatigue. And we forget that sometimes. You can have interpretations from dreams, analysis, and psychology. I read that here. There's goal evaluation, subconscious processing, escapism. A daydream can be that form of that pleasant escapism from reality. And I know we all like that. We all having that little different break, or the break we need from reality. We like that. We need that. That desire for something you wish. It's unlikely to happen, but it sounds good, right? We can daydream, right? Oh, I was daydreaming the other day, and I thought of, it happens. We daydream. That's what we do. We think of things. We have to think of stuff to keep us sane. You have to have that fantasy. Or better yet, the actual meaning of daydream is a fantasy that you have while you're awake. You know what I'm saying? We all are in that kind of category. We all have fantasies while we're awake. I mean, you think about it, you scratch your head and you're going, wait a minute. I do this all the time. I do. Daydream is like right up my alley, right up the road that leads straight to me. I daydream. Once again, while I'm awake, I have this fantasy of a world that might not ever be, but you want. From a nice house to a nice car to a plane to a helicopter to owning a mountain to a cabin on top of a hill. I don't, whatever you might have. But did you know, and I didn't know this until I did just a little research right here on the spot while I'm talking to you. There are actually 3 different types of daydreaming. I didn't know. Didn't know such stuff existed. Would have never had it known if I didn't do it up. But through their research, there was a guy and his colleagues that identified 3 broad styles of daydreaming. Now, this is true. This is back, I think it was back in 1966, maybe. I'm not sure. But it's positive, constructive, guilty, dysphoric, and poor attentional control. When you think that you can have a positive impact on yourself, thinking of your future or thinking of that daydream and it's positive, that's cool. That's constructive. That's good. You can have guilty. You can start feeling dysphoric. You'll start feeling bad about probably remorse or something. You can dream about anything. Daydream about it. And that poor attention control. When you give poor attention to things, what happens? That happens. Bad stuff happens. And we can only say, well, what does being a daydreamer mean? Daydreamer? Yes, we have a song about it. Daydream Believer. You guys understand that song? Yeah. If you break down daydreaming, dreaming while you're awake, which is like the metaphor for thinking about your goals or dreams. Once again, I think that can be a very, very futile to your future. Think about it. Just think about what you would like, and literally think about it. When somebody says stop and think about it, you should. This is one of those things. Daydreaming. You can only talk about it so much. You actually, okay. For instance, you may ask yourself, like, well, what happens? One of the questions was, what happens to the brain when you're daydreaming? When you daydream, what happens up here? What has happened? It's a network of regions, it says, in the brain that are active during times of rest, like a default network. Okay? This is a brain state, it says, in which you are not actively performing any task. In other words, when your working memory is empty. You dig? You may say to yourself, oh, Big Beard, not everybody daydreams. Big Beard, I don't daydream. We don't daydream. Yes, you do. You all have this we all have the awake fantasy that allows us to say, we want this. We want to dream about it. It's a dream. You're dreaming about your dreams during the day, and you make positive affirmations. I'm assuming. If you say, what is, one of the other questions were, what is a daydreaming person called? You can say daydreamer, okay, but what are they actually called? One, daydreamer. It's cool. It's a fantasist, where you fantasize about things. Here's mine. I like this one. Imaginative. Is that not cool? You go somewhere, you daydream, and once again, you think, usually we daydream about stuff we like, stuff we want, a life that we don't have yet, a life that we're earning and yearning for. I mean, you say, oh, you're a daydreamer. Oh, that's the most common, it says, in direct term. But someone who indulges in fantasy or a positive a person, they do something positive for someone with the richer inner life. And then you have the wool gatherer. Have you ever heard of that? You call him the wool gatherer. It's that person who idly or absent-mindedly just constantly daydreams. That's all they can think about. That's all they talk about. The stargazer, that's another term by definition that they could call other names for daydreamers. Someone who's often lost in thought, just looking up at the sky or often in distance. And it's crazy that it's real. It is real. These things are real. The escapist, I like that term. When you daydream, you can be like, you're an escapist, aren't you? Yeah, someone who escapes reality through fantasy. A lot of you play games. I think that's half the time why some people are kids. If you play games, that doesn't mean you're a child. I still got my Nintendo 64 hooked up with 007 on it. WCW versus NWO Revenge. Still got it. Right now. I can pick the camera up, go in there right now, and all in one fluid motion, hit a button, and start playing my game. Got it. But that's not the kind that I'm talking about. You turn one on, turn it off, but you really get into games, and all you do is stay until you might work, you might eat, but all you do is stay on. I think that something's wrong with that. Not wrong. Let me back up. Not that you're wrong for doing that. I think something's wrong with that. Where you're constantly dreaming, right? You're playing. You're dreaming. You're living in that fantasy. You're an escapist. That's one of those terms. Fantasy world, whether it's games or fantasy world, whether it's something you live for and yearn for and think of later, you're still daydreaming, okay? Fantasy and games, fantasy in life, you kind of daydream to do, I don't know. I think somehow there's a connection there. You ever heard of the castle builder? That's someone who makes an unrealistic or impractical plans. Yeah? Someone who makes unrealistic or impractical plans. Have you ever heard of this? You ever heard of being a Walter Mitty? You've never heard of a Walter Mitty? Well, for those of you who have not, you can refer to a character who daydreams of being this hero or living a more exciting life. Yeah. Walter Mitty. That's it. These are terms. These are real things that are. All right. One question it says is what type of people daydream a lot? That's a good question. The type of people that daydream a lot is someone who daydreams a lot can be described as imaginative. I said earlier. I like to think that people tell me all the time, you live in a fantasy world, you live in a daydream, you just live in dreams, and you're not ever going to make... Look, I'm not here to talk about myself or tell you I'm going to do better because you want me to. Not going to happen. I need to. That's what happens. But excessive daydreaming can be a sign of the maladaptive daydreaming. It's MD. It's a proposed condition that involves vivid, time-consuming daydreams that interfere with your daily life. Well, yes, it can be detrimental where you can't focus. And why, if you can't focus, some people like to say there's anxiety, depression, OCD, or even ADHD, which I have ups and downs about. I get on certain things that I'm passionate about and I don't speak of. I'm not trying necessarily not to speak of them, but I'm trying not to draw a certain audience. I don't want you to if I disagree with you or you disagree with me, then we hate each other type. I'm not doing that. But if you have an excessive daydreaming, like I said, well, it's a maladaptive daydream. It's MD is what it's called. It's a true term. But if that interferes with your daily life and difficulty focusing, problems with schoolwork, social issues, a lot of things, you daydream can be bad. Now, what causes this escape, this maladaptive daydreaming? Well, it can serve as an escape from feelings of emptiness, of you could say stress, trauma, things that come your way you don't like. The negativity is like, I'm not going to do this. You can have compulsive behavior. I think a lot of folks, I believe more than half the planet has certain compulsive behaviors, and everybody thinks that everybody's better than everybody, and that's what gets me. Just because someone's different than you, you don't need to hate them. You don't need to run your mouth about them because you don't understand. You don't need to tell them something's wrong with them. You don't need to say, oh, you're crazy. That's dismissive. Quit calling people crazy. Seriously. It's so easy to say they're crazy. Oh, move along. We knew that. A lot of these people, us in society, when you have that compulsive behavior from daydreaming, it turns daydreams into this compulsively problem. You want to constantly escape reality. And you know what? I don't blame you. But don't let it be a problem. You have symptoms. There's symptoms of MD, right? Maladaptive, daydream. It's a vivid and immersive fantasies, physical reactions, interference with life, compulsive behavior, difficulty sleeping. It all plays the part that you were constantly wanting this fantasy and constantly wanting to do better. Do it. But in the meantime, it can drive us nuts getting there. It can make us feel like we're losing our mind. But what do you want to do about this stuff? You could talk to somebody, professional, perhaps. You can recognize what causes you to daydream to the point where it's detrimental to you. I know this sounds crazy, don't it? He said daydreaming can be hazardous to your health. Look it up. I'm not getting into it. Engage in real life activities. Create a routine. Seek social support. Connect with others, man. Build. You dig? Build. Genuine relationships can help you. It can be an important part of things that we need to do. Now, if you're just daydreaming, because you're fun or bored, or I was going to say you're having fun, or you're bored, or whatever it may be, it's actually a normal, beneficial process that's linked to creativity and problem solving, it says, and your mental well-being. And I'm going to tell you right now, I daydream all the time. I have this passion project. I constantly want to daydream. And what I say is my future, I say. I want to think ahead. I want to do better. I daydream, and sometimes I'll just be sitting here at the computer or sitting at my desk, and sometimes I'll just be like staring up into space. And it makes me like, snap back. Sorry about that. Didn't realize that. Anyway, I say daydream. What's that song, Gay? Daydream Believer. And a homecoming queen. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you tonight. I hope you listened to this babble for the last 17 minutes or whatever it's been now. And I do appreciate it. Daydreaming. That's all I wanted to talk about. I talk about him. I want to talk about it. That's it. I bring him up. I think. I go, hey, this is it. And it counts with me through the week. I've had a crazy week. Work was slow. Finances are slow. And I did a lot of daydreaming this week. What are those 3 words that I daydream about to get me out of here week after week after week? I say 3 words that end the show. What are the love, peace, chicken grease? Later, guys, and thanks for watching.